Nothing would surprise me anymore. But every so often, someone walks into my courtroom and reminds me that human arrogance has no ceiling. This was a Wednesday morning in late October, the kind of day where the heating system clicks on too early and the air gets stale by 9. I had a full docket, 23 cases scheduled before lunch, routine stuff. Traffic violations, minor drug possession, a handful of probation reviews. The gallery was half empty. A few family members scattered across the benches, one or two law students taking notes in the back. Case number 12 was a contempt hearing. The defendant's name was Marcus Webb, 26 years old. He'd been cited for disrupting a prior proceeding, my proceeding 2 weeks earlier. He'd shown up to support a friend during a DUI sentencing and decided to offer commentary from the gallery. Loud commentary. When the bailiff asked him to step outside, he refused. When I told him he was in contempt, he laughed. Not a nervous laugh, a dismissive one, so I gave him a choice: apologize on the record and walk out, or face a formal contempt charge. He chose the latter, said he'd see me in court, and here we were. He came in wearing a black hoodie and jeans, no tie, no jacket. That wasn't the problem. I don't care what people wear. But the way he walked in, shoulders back, eyes scanning the room like he was evaluating a restaurant, that told me everything I needed to know. He didn't think this mattered. His attorney was a public defender named Caroline Ortiz. Good lawyer. I'd seen her handle tougher cases with less to work with. She looked tired that morning. The kind of tired that comes from explaining the same thing to the same client 12 different ways and getting nowhere. I called the case. The clerk swore him in. He raised his right hand with the kind of slow deliberation that people use when they want you to know they're only cooperating because they feel like it. Miss Ortiz stood. Your Honor, my client is prepared to address the court regarding the October 7th incident. I nodded. Go ahead. She glanced at Webb. He didn't stand. She touched his elbow. He stood. Mr. Webb, I said, 2 weeks ago, you disrupted a sentencing in this courtroom. You refused a direct order from my bailiff. You laughed when I informed you that you were in contempt of court. Do you dispute any of that? He shrugged. I was just supporting my boy. Didn't think it was that serious. Miss Ortiz closed her eyes for half a second. Whether you thought it was serious is irrelevant, I said. This is a courtroom, not a barber shop. When you're told to be quiet, you're quiet. When you're told to leave, you leave. That's how this works. He shifted his weight. I mean, yeah, I get it, my bad. You're bad. Yeah. I leaned forward slightly. Mr. Webb, do you understand what contempt of court means? Disrespecting the judge or whatever. It means interfering with the administration of justice. It means you decided your opinion was more important than the process. And when that happens, I have to decide whether you're someone who can be trusted to follow the law or someone who thinks the law is optional. He looked at me like I was wasting his time. Miss Ortiz stepped in. Your Honor, Mr. Webb has no prior criminal record. He's employed full-time as a warehouse supervisor. He's willing to issue a formal apology, and that's when his phone rang. Not a vibration, not a subtle buzz, a full-volume ringtone. Some rap song I didn't recognize, bass-heavy, explicit lyrics bleeding through the speaker. The courtroom went silent. Every head turned. Webb reached into his pocket, pulled out the phone, looked at the screen, and I'm not making this up, he swiped to answer it. Yo, I'm in court right now, I'll hit you back. He ended the call, slipped the phone back in his pocket, looked up at me like nothing had happened. Miss Ortiz's face went pale. I sat back in my chair. I didn't say anything for a long moment. I just looked at him. The kind of look that gives people one last chance to realize what they've done. He didn't take it. Mr. Webb, I said quietly, did you just answer your phone in my courtroom? He shrugged again. It was my cousin. He wouldn't call unless it was important. More important than this hearing. I mean, I told him I'd call him back. I heard someone in the gallery whisper something. The court reporter's hands hovered over her keys. The bailiff, a former Marine named Davis, took one step closer to the defense table without even thinking about it. I folded my hands on the bench. Mr. Webb, when you walked in here this morning, you had a chance to make this right. You could have shown respect. You could have acknowledged that your behavior 2 weeks ago was unacceptable. You could have demonstrated that you understand the seriousness of these proceedings. He stared at me, expressionless. Instead, I continued, you showed up dressed like you're running errands. You gave me a half-hearted apology that sounded more like an inconvenience than remorse. And then, while standing in front of a judge, in the middle of a contempt hearing about your own disrespect, you answered your phone. Miss Ortiz tried to salvage it. Your Honor, I apologize on behalf of my client. He clearly didn't. I raised a hand. Miss Ortiz, you have nothing to apologize for. You've done your job, but your client has made his position clear. I turned back to Webb. Here's what's going to happen. The original contempt charge carries a maximum of 30 days. I was prepared to give you a warning and a fine, maybe community service, but you've now committed a second act of contempt in my presence. So I'm going to impose the full 30 days on the original charge, and I'm adding another 30 for what just happened. He blinked. Wait, what? 60 days in county jail. Bailiff, take him into custody. His whole body shifted. Hold on, you serious right now? Davis stepped forward. Hands behind your back. Webb's voice got louder. For answering my phone, that's crazy. For repeatedly demonstrating that you have no respect for this court or the legal process, I said. Hands behind your back. He looked at Miss Ortiz. She was already packing her briefcase. She'd seen this coming the moment the phone rang. This is bullshit, he shouted. Make it 90, I said. He froze. Miss Ortiz spoke without looking up. Marcus, stop talking. Davis moved in. Webb jerked his arm away. Get off me, man. Do not resist, I said. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Davis was calm, professional. He'd done this 1,000 times. Webb tried to pull away again, but Davis had him cuffed in under 5 seconds. Textbook. Webb was still yelling as they walked him toward the side door. Something about his job, his bills, how this wasn't fair. His voice echoed down the hallway even after the door closed. The courtroom was dead silent. I looked at Miss Ortiz. Anything else, counselor? She shook her head. No, Your Honor. We're adjourned. I stood. Everyone else stood. I walked back to chambers and closed the door. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. 3 months later, I got a letter. It was from Webb. Handwritten, 2 pages. He apologized. Said he'd been acting like a fool. Said jail gave him time to think. He asked if there was any way to reduce the sentence or clear his record for future employment. I read it twice. Then I filed it with the case documents. I didn't respond. Not because I was punishing him, but because the apology wasn't for me. It was for him. He needed to write it more than I needed to read it. 17 years on the bench. I've seen people lose everything over decisions that took less than a second. A word, a gesture, a phone call. The law doesn't care about your intentions. It cares about your actions. And in my courtroom, your actions have consequences. I sat at my desk for a few minutes after that hearing. The room was quiet except for the hum of the air filtration system and the muffled sounds of the courthouse hallway outside. I had 16 more cases to get through before lunch. I called my clerk on the intercom. Send in the next one. But I couldn't stop thinking about the phone. Not because it made me angry. I've had people do worse. I once had a defendant spit at a witness. I've had family members rush the bench. I've seen attorneys show up drunk. The phone wasn't the most disrespectful thing I'd ever witnessed. It was the casualness of it, the complete absence of awareness. That's what stuck with me. I went through the rest of the morning on autopilot. Arraignments, bond hearings, status conferences. I issued rulings, set dates, denied motions. The mechanics of the job. By noon, I'd cleared the docket. Miss Ortiz caught me in the hallway on my way to lunch. Your Honor, do you have a moment? I stopped. What is it, counselor? She looked uncomfortable. I wanted to apologize again for what happened this morning. I advised Mr. Webb to turn off his phone before we entered the courtroom. He told me he did. I'm sure you did your job, Miss Ortiz. I know, but I also wanted to ask. She hesitated. Is there any possibility of reconsideration? 90 days is going to cost him his job, his apartment. He's got a daughter who, I held up a hand. Stop, she went quiet. Miss Ortiz, I appreciate your advocacy. But the sentence stands. If Mr. Webb wants to file an appeal, he has that right, but I'm not revisiting this. She nodded slowly. Understood. Was there anything else? No, Your Honor. She walked away. I watched her disappear around the corner, briefcase in one hand, coffee in the other. I didn't eat lunch that day. I went back to my chambers and reviewed case files for the afternoon session. Around 2:30, my bailiff knocked. Judge, we've got a situation. I looked up. What kind of situation? Webb's cousin is in the lobby, says he needs to talk to you. About, won't say, just keeps asking to speak to the judge who locked up Marcus. I sighed. Tell him I don't take meetings with family members of defendants. If he has a legal concern, he needs to file a motion through an attorney. Davis nodded. Already told him that. He's not leaving. I stood. Is he being disruptive? Not yet, but he's getting loud. I followed Davis out to the security checkpoint. There was a man in his early 30s leaning against the metal detector frame. He was wearing a work uniform, some kind of HVAC company logo on the chest. He saw me and straightened up. You the judge? I am. You the one who gave my cousin 90 days? I am. He shook his head. Man, that's messed up. You know he's got a kid, right? Little girl, 5 years old. What's she supposed to do for 3 months? I kept my voice level. Your cousin had multiple opportunities to avoid this outcome. He chose not to take them. Over a phone call. Over a pattern of disrespect that culminated in a phone call, yes. He stepped closer. Davis moved between us without a word. The cousin raised his hands. I'm not trying to start nothing. I just don't understand how you can sit up there and ruin somebody's life over something so small. I didn't ruin his life. He made choices. Those choices have consequences. He's a good dude. Works hard, takes care of his family. I'm sure he does, but none of that changes what happened in my courtroom. The cousin stared at me for a long moment. Then he laughed short, bitter. Y'all really don't care, do you? I didn't respond. He turned and walked toward the exit. Halfway there he stopped and looked back. That phone call, that was me. I was calling to tell him his daughter's mom just dropped her off at his place and wasn't coming back. He's the only parent she's got now. Then he left. I stood there in the hallway. Davis was watching me, waiting for instructions. Anything else, Judge? I shook my head. No, thanks, Davis. I went back to chambers, closed the door, sat down at my desk. I picked up the case file, read through the notes again, the contempt citation, the prior incident, the phone call. I thought about the little girl. Then I thought about the defendant who'd answered his phone in open court while being sentenced for contempt. The one who shrugged when I asked him if he understood the seriousness of the proceedings. The one who didn't apologize until he was in handcuffs. I closed the file. The law doesn't have a pause button. You can't stop the machinery because new information makes you uncomfortable. The gavel falls and what's done is done. But that doesn't mean you stop thinking about it. I had an afternoon docket that ran until 4:30. 2 preliminary hearings, a motion to suppress, and a sentencing for a repeat DUI offender. I handled them all the same way I always did, by the book, fair, detached. But I kept seeing that cousin's face. After court adjourned, I didn't go straight home. I sat in chambers with the door closed and pulled up the county jail roster on my computer. Webb Marcus, booked at 10:47 a.m. Classification pending, no bond. I stared at the screen for a while, then I logged out. My wife called around 6, asked if I was coming home for dinner. Yeah, I said, I'm leaving now. I didn't leave. I opened the file again. Read the transcript from the original contempt incident. Webb had called the victim in his friend's DUI case a liar, said the whole thing was a setup. When the bailiff told him to step outside, he said, I got a right to be here. Technically true. But rights come with responsibilities. I'd explained that to him. He'd laughed. Now he was sitting in a cell because he couldn't put his phone on silent. I closed the file again. There's a difference between the law and justice. People think they're the same thing. They're not. The law is a set of rules. Justice is what happens when those rules meet reality. Sometimes they align, sometimes they don't. I've spent 17 years trying to make them align. Most days I think I succeed. That night I went home and didn't tell my wife what happened. She asked how my day was. I said fine. We ate dinner, watched TV, went to bed. I didn't sleep much. The next morning I had a lighter docket, only 8 cases. I got through them by 11. Miss Ortiz was in the hallway again when I came out of the courtroom. Your Honor, I stopped. Miss Ortiz, I filed a motion for reconsideration last night, emergency hearing. I know it's irregular, but denied, she blinked. You haven't read it yet. I don't need to. The sentence was appropriate given the circumstances. I'm not changing it. Your Honor, there's new information. The phone call, I'm aware. That stopped her. I looked at her directly. His cousin came to see me yesterday. I know why Webb answered the phone. Her expression shifted. Then you understand. I understand that he was dealing with a difficult situation. I also understand that he still made a choice. He could have let it go to voicemail. He could have stepped out of the courtroom. He could have silenced his phone before the hearing started like you told him to. He's about to lose custody of his daughter. That's not my decision to make, but your decision affects it. I took a breath. Miss Ortiz, I respect your advocacy, but if I reduce this sentence, what message does that send? That contempt of court is negotiable. That if you have a good enough excuse, the rules don't apply. That judges are human. That context matters. Context does matter. And the context here is that your client has repeatedly shown that he doesn't respect this process. The phone call didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the culmination of a pattern. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll file an appeal. That's your right. She walked away. I went back to chambers and sat down. My clerk knocked a few minutes later. Judge, there's someone here to see you. Who? Says his name is Raymond Webb, Marcus Webb's father. I rubbed my eyes. Send him in. The man who walked into my office was in his 60s, maybe older. Gray hair, lined face, wearing a flannel shirt and work boots. He stood in the doorway like he wasn't sure he was allowed to be there. Mr. Webb, Judge, he nodded. I appreciate you seeing me. Sit down. He sat. Hands folded in his lap. What can I do for you? He cleared his throat. I came to ask you to go easy on my son. I didn't respond. I know what he did, Raymond continued. I know he was disrespectful. I raised him better than that, but he's not a bad kid. He's just young, stubborn, thinks he knows everything. Mr. Webb, I can't discuss your son's case with you. I'm not asking you to discuss it. I'm asking you to reconsider. I leaned back in my chair. Do you know why your son is in jail? He answered his phone in court. After being cited for contempt 2 weeks earlier, after refusing to apologize, after showing up to a hearing about his own disrespect and demonstrating more disrespect. Raymond looked down. I know. Then you understand why I can't just let this go. I do. But I also know that little girl needs her father. And if Marcus loses his job, loses his apartment, he's not going to be able to get her back. That's not my concern. The words came out harsher than I intended. Raymond looked up. His eyes were tired. I know it's not, but it should be. We sat in silence for a moment, then he stood. Thank you for your time, Judge. He walked to the door, stopped, turned back. You got kids? I nodded. 2. Then you know what it's like to watch your child make a mistake and not be able to fix it for them. He left. I sat there for a long time after he was gone. That weekend, I didn't go into the office. I stayed home, tried to focus on other things. My daughter had a soccer game on Saturday. My son needed help with a college application essay. Normal life. But on Sunday night, I found myself looking up family court records. I don't know why I did it. Professional curiosity maybe, or something else. There was a custody filing, emergency petition. The mother, Webb's ex, was seeking full custody based on his incarceration. Hearing scheduled for the following Wednesday. I closed my laptop. Monday morning, I was back on the bench. Business as usual. But during a recess, my clerk handed me a message slip. This came in over the weekend. Someone from Child Protective Services. I looked at the name. Jennifer Holt. Case number matched Webb's daughter. I called the number during lunch. Miss Holt, this is Judge Brennan returning your call. Oh, yes, Judge. Thank you, she sounded rushed. I'm calling about the Webb case. Marcus Webb. You presided over his contempt hearing last week. I'm aware. I'm working with the family on a safety plan for the minor child. The mother has a history of substance abuse and housing instability. She's not a viable placement. The father was primary caregiver before his incarceration. I didn't say anything. I wanted to make you aware that the child is currently in emergency foster care. If Mr. Webb's sentence stands, we'll likely be looking at a longer-term placement, possibly adoption proceedings. I set my pen down. Miss Holt, I appreciate the information, but I can't discuss the details of Mr. Webb's case with you. I understand. I just thought you should know the full picture. I have the full picture. There was a pause on the other end. Okay. Well, if anything changes, please feel free to reach out. She hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand. That afternoon, I had a status conference for a drug trafficking case. The defendant was looking at 15 years. His attorney was trying to negotiate a plea. I listened to both sides, asked a few questions, set another date. After court, I called my bailiff into chambers. Davis, I need you to check something for me. He pulled out his notebook. What do you need? Webb, Marcus Webb. Check his behavior reports from the jail. Any incidents, any disciplinary issues. Davis looked at me but didn't ask questions. I'll get it to you by tomorrow. Thanks, he left. I opened the file again. Read through my own notes from the hearing. The way I described his demeanor. The shrug. The casualness. I'd been right about all of it. But being right doesn't always feel the way you think it will. The next morning, Davis brought me the report. Webb's clean, he said. No problems, keeps to himself, follows the rules. I scanned the document. Model inmate, respectful to staff, no altercations. How long's he been in? 8 days. I handed the report back. Thanks, Davis hesitated. Judge, if you don't mind me asking, I do mind, he nodded. Understood. After he left, I pulled up the appellate court's website. Miss Ortiz had filed her appeal. Standard grounds. Abuse of discretion. Disproportionate sentence. She was thorough, professional. She wouldn't win, I knew that. She probably knew that too, but she'd done her job. Wednesday came. I had morning calendar, then nothing until 2. I knew the custody hearing was at 10 in family court. Judge Patricia Hammond presiding. I'd worked with her for years. Good judge. Fair. I didn't go watch. But at 11:30 I got a call from her clerk. Judge Brennan, Judge Hammond would like to speak with you if you have a moment. I walked down to her chambers. She was at her desk, reading, glasses on, a stack of files in front of her. Patricia, James, come in, close the door. I sat down. She took off her glasses. I just wrapped the Webb custody hearing. I waited. The mother's not fit. History of addiction, multiple relapses, no stable housing. Normally, I'd place the child with the father, but he's incarcerated. I'm aware. For 90 days, on a contempt charge. I didn't respond. She leaned forward. James, I'm not here to second-guess your ruling. But I need to know, is there any possibility of modification? Because right now, I'm looking at putting a 5-year-old into the foster system when she has a capable parent sitting in jail for answering his phone. I met her eyes. He didn't just answer his phone. I know, I read the transcript, but context matters. It does, and the context is that he's shown a pattern of disrespect for the judicial process. The context is also that a child is about to lose her father. We sat in silence. I can't help you, Patricia. She studied me for a moment, then she nodded. Okay, I stood. James, I turned. You're a good judge, one of the best I've worked with. But sometimes being right isn't the same as being just. I left without responding. Back in my chambers, I sat at my desk and stared at the wall. 17 years, thousands of cases. I'd made the right call every time, or so I'd thought. I went home early that day, told my clerk I wasn't feeling well. It wasn't a lie. My wife knew something was wrong. She always does, but she didn't push. We had dinner. I helped my son with his homework. Everything normal. Except I couldn't stop thinking about Judge Hammond's face. Thursday morning I came in at 7, earlier than usual. I wanted to clear my head before the day started. There was an envelope on my desk, no return address. Just my name written in neat handwriting. I opened it. Inside was a drawing, crayon, a stick figure man and a smaller stick figure with pigtails. They were holding hands. Above them in a child's uneven letters, me and Daddy. No note. No signature. I set it down on my desk, stared at it for a long time. Then I called my clerk, "Get me the Webb file." She brought it in 5 minutes later. I went through everything again. The original incident, the hearing, the phone call, the transcript of what I'd said, what he'd said. Every word was accurate. Every decision was defensible. I picked up the phone, put it back down, picked it up again. I dialed the jail. "This is Judge Brennan. I need to speak with the duty officer about inmate Marcus Webb." They transferred me. I waited. "This is Officer Chen. I need to arrange a judicial interview with Webb, today if possible." There was a pause. "Is this regarding his case?" "Yes. I'll set it up. What time works for you?" "Noon." "Done." I hung up. My clerk appeared in the doorway. "Judge, you have calendar at 9. Cancel it. Reschedule everything." She blinked. "Everything?" "Everything." At 11:45 I drove to the county jail. I'd been there before, but not often. Judges don't typically meet with inmates. We make decisions from the bench, not from inside cells. The duty officer met me at the entrance. "Judge Brennan, we've got Webb in interview room 3. I followed him through 2 security checkpoints. The smell hit me first. Disinfectant and sweat and something else. Desperation, maybe. Webb was sitting at a metal table when I walked in. His hands were cuffed to a chain at his waist. He looked up when I entered. His expression shifted, surprise then wariness. "Judge." I sat down across from him. The officer stood by the door. "Mr. Webb." He didn't say anything, just watched me. I set my briefcase on the table. "I'm here because I want to ask you some questions. I thought the case was over." "It is. This isn't about the case." He frowned. "Then what's it about?" "Your daughter." His whole body tensed. "What about her?" "She's in foster care." His jaw clenched. "I know. The custody hearing was yesterday. Judge Hammond awarded temporary custody to the state pending further review." "I know that too." I paused. "Do you know why I'm here? To tell me it's my fault?" "No." He looked at me confused. I opened my briefcase, pulled out the drawing, slid it across the table. He stared at it. His hands moved toward it, but the chain stopped him. His eyes went red. "Where'd you get this?" "Someone left it on my desk." He looked away, blinked hard. "Mr. Webb, I want you to understand something. The sentence I gave you was appropriate based on your actions in my courtroom. I stand by that decision." "Then why are you here?" "Because appropriate doesn't always mean right." He turned back to me. "I've been a judge for 17 years, I said. "I've sentenced hundreds of people, maybe thousands. I follow the law, I'm fair. I don't let emotions cloud my judgment." I paused. "But I also don't know what it's like to be 26 years old, working a job that barely pays the bills, raising a daughter on your own, and getting a phone call that your ex just abandoned your child." Webb's throat worked. "I should have asked," I continued. "Before I added the extra time, I should have asked why you answered that phone. You wouldn't have cared." "Maybe not, but I should have asked." We sat in silence. "What happens now?" he said quietly. I closed my briefcase. "That depends on you." "On me?" "I'm going to offer you something, a choice." He waited. "I can modify your sentence, reduce it to time served plus probation. You'd be out by tomorrow." His eyes widened. "But," I said, "if you accept, you have to complete 200 hours of community service. You have to attend anger management classes. And you have to write a formal apology, not to me, but to the court system, explaining what you learned. And if I don't accept, then the 90 days stands. No modifications, no appeals." He looked down at the drawing. "Why are you doing this?" I thought about that, about Judge Hammond's words, about the cousin in the hallway, about Raymond Webb sitting in my office with his hands folded. "Because I was right about the law," I said, "but wrong about you." Webb's shoulders shook. He turned his head away, but I could see it. I can get her back, his voice cracked. I can't promise that. That's up to the family court, but you'll have a chance. He nodded, kept nodding, couldn't seem to stop. I'll do it, he whispered. Whatever you want, I'll do it. I stood. I'll file the modification order this afternoon. You should be processed out by tomorrow morning. I walked to the door, stopped. Mr. Webb, he looked up. Don't make me regret this. I won't. I left him there with the drawing on the table in front of him. Back in chambers, I drafted the modification order. My hands were steady. The language was precise. I cited the relevant statutes, outlined the terms, specified the conditions. But I sat there for 20 minutes before I signed it. Once I did, there was no taking it back. I signed it. My clerk filed it electronically at 3:15. By 3:30, Miss Ortiz called. Judge Brennan, I just saw the order come through. I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. Thank you. I hung up. At 4, I got a call from the prosecuting attorney. His name was Michael Garrett. We'd worked together for years. Judge, I need to talk to you about the Webb modification. What about it? You reduced a 90-day contempt sentence to time served. 9 days. I'm aware. On what grounds? Judicial discretion. There was a pause. Judge, with all due respect, this sets a bad precedent. If defendants think they can, counselor, I've made my decision. If you want to challenge it, file an objection. I'm not challenging it. I'm asking you to reconsider. The answer is no. Another pause. Understood. He hung up. I knew what he was thinking, that I'd gone soft, that I'd let emotion override judgment, that I'd opened a door that shouldn't be opened. Maybe he was right. I went home at 5. Didn't tell my wife what I'd done. We ate dinner, watched a movie, normal evening, but I barely slept. The next morning I came in early again, checked the jail release log. Webb Marcus. Released 6:47 a.m. I closed the window. Around 10 my bailiff knocked. Judge, there's someone here to see you. Who? Raymond Webb. I nodded. Send him in. The older man walked in, same flannel shirt, same work boots. But his face was different, lighter. Judge Brennan, Mr. Webb, I just wanted to thank you for what you did for my son. I didn't do it for your son. I did it because it was the right thing to do. He smiled slightly. Either way, thank you. How's the little girl? Marcus picked her up from foster care this morning. They're getting her settled back at his place. I nodded. Raymond hesitated. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. What made you change your mind? I thought about that. About the drawing. About Judge Hammond. About the cousin in the hallway and the CPS worker on the phone. I didn't change my mind about what your son did. He was disrespectful. He broke the rules. He deserved to be held accountable. But accountability doesn't always have to look like punishment. Raymond nodded slowly. My son's going to make you proud, Judge. I promise you that. I don't need him to make me proud, Mr. Webb. I need him to show up for his daughter. He will. After he left, I sat at my desk and pulled up my calendar. Full docket. Back-to-back hearings until 4. I got through them mechanically. A probation violation, 2 bond hearings, a motion to continue, standard procedure. At 2:30 during a recess, my clerk handed me an envelope. This just came by courier. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten. Judge Brennan, I don't know how to thank you for what you did. I know I didn't deserve it. I know I messed up. But you gave me a second chance and I'm not going to waste it. My daughter asked me last night why I was gone. I told her I made a mistake and had to go away for a little while to think about it. She asked if I was going to make mistakes again. I told her yes, probably. But I also told her that when I do, I'm going to own up to them and try to do better. I learned that from you. Thank you. Marcus Webb, I read it twice. Then I filed it with the case documents. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Judge Hammond. James, I wanted to update you on the Webb custody case. Go ahead. I awarded full custody to the father. The mother's parental rights are suspended pending completion of a treatment program. Probably won't happen, but we gave her the option. And the child? Doing well. Social worker did a home visit last week. Clean apartment, food in the fridge, child enrolled in kindergarten. Father's been attending all required meetings, completed half his community service hours already. Good. James, I owe you an apology. For what? For what I said in my chambers. You made the right call, both times. I didn't respond. You still there? She asked. Yeah, I'm here. Anyway, thought you'd want to know. She hung up. I sat there for a while. Then I went back to work. 2 months after that, I was in the hallway between courtrooms when I saw him. Marcus Webb, walking out of the clerk's office with a stack of papers. He was wearing khakis and a button-up shirt, clean-shaved. Different. He saw me, stopped. We looked at each other for a long moment. Then he nodded once. I nodded back. He kept walking. I never saw him again. But I did hear about him. 6 months later, I was having lunch with a colleague from the public defender's office. We were talking about caseloads, budget cuts, the usual complaints. Miss Ortiz walked by our table, stopped. Judge Brennan, Miss Ortiz, do you have a minute? I gestured to the empty chair. She sat down. I wanted to tell you something about Marcus Webb. I set down my coffee. He finished his community service early, completed the anger management program, and he wrote that apology you asked for. I assumed he did. No, I mean, he really wrote it, 5 pages, handwritten. About what he learned, how he's changed, what it means to respect the system even when you don't agree with it. She pulled a folded paper from her bag. He asked me to give this to you. I took it, didn't open it. There's more, she said. He got promoted at work, shift supervisor now, and he's been volunteering at a community center, helping other young fathers navigate the family court system. I nodded slowly. I just thought you should know. What you did changing that sentence, it mattered. I didn't change it for him. I changed it because I made a mistake. She tilted her head. Did you? I sentenced a man to 90 days without knowing the full story. You sentenced him based on his actions. Then you corrected course when you had more information. That's not a mistake, Judge. That's integrity. She stood. Anyway, I won't take up more of your time. After she left, I unfolded the paper. The handwriting was neater than I expected. The words were careful, deliberate. He talked about his daughter, about learning to control his anger, about understanding that rules exist for a reason, even when they're inconvenient. On the last page he wrote, I used to think the system was against people like me. Maybe it is sometimes, but you showed me that the people in the system, they're just people, and people can choose to do the right thing even when it's hard. I'm trying to be that kind of person now, for my daughter, for myself. I hope I get the chance to show you I'm different. I folded it back up, put it in my jacket pocket. That night I told my wife what had happened, the whole story. The phone call, the sentence, the modification, everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Do you regret it? She asked. Which part? Any of it. I thought about that. About Webb's face in that jail interview room. About the drawing. About the nod in the hallway. No, even the original sentence. Even that. He needed to understand that actions have consequences. I took it too far. You fixed it. I tried to. She reached across the table, took my hand. You know what I think. What? I think you're harder on yourself than you are on anyone who walks into your courtroom. I didn't respond. You made a judgment call, she continued. Then you made another one. Both of them were right for different reasons. That's not how the law works. No, but it's how people work. A year passed. I didn't think about the Webb case much. It was filed away with hundreds of others. Cases I'd decided, sentences I'd imposed, lives I'd touched in small ways. Then one afternoon, my clerk buzzed me. Judge, there's a Marcus Webb on line 2, says it's important. I picked up the phone. Mr. Webb, Judge Brennan, I'm sorry to bother you. What do you need? I wanted to let you know something. I got accepted into a paralegal program, night classes. I start next month. I sat back in my chair. That's good news. Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while. After everything that happened, I want to help people. People who don't understand the system, who make mistakes like I did. That's a good goal. There was a pause. I also wanted to ask you something. Go ahead. Would you be willing to write me a letter of recommendation for the program? I know it's a lot to ask, but yes, silence on the other end. Yes, send me the details, I'll write the letter. Judge, I thank you, really thank you. Mr. Webb, yes, don't thank me. Just do the work. I will, he hung up. I wrote the letter that evening. It was honest. I described his contempt charge, his sentence, his behavior in custody, and his transformation afterward. I didn't sugarcoat anything. But I also didn't hold back. Marcus Webb made a serious mistake in my courtroom, I wrote, but he took responsibility for it. He completed every requirement I imposed. And he used that experience to become a better father, a better employee, and a better member of his community. I believe he will bring that same commitment to your program. I signed it, mailed it the next day. 3 weeks later, I got a card in the mail. Inside was a photo, Webb and his daughter. She was wearing a backpack standing in front of a school. He was kneeling beside her, smiling. On the back, in that same careful handwriting, "First day of first grade. She asked me to take a picture for you. I put it on my desk, next to my family photos. It's still there." 2 years after that, I was reviewing applications for a clerkship position. My current clerk was moving to private practice, and I needed someone who understood courtroom procedure, could handle pressure, and had good judgment. I was on the third application when I saw the name, Marcus Webb. I read it twice to make sure. He'd completed the paralegal program, top of his class. He'd been working at a legal aid clinic, helping low-income defendants navigate the system. His supervisor wrote that he had exceptional empathy and an uncommon understanding of how the justice system affects real lives. His personal statement was one paragraph. "I want to work in the courts because I've seen them from both sides. I've been the person who didn't respect the process and paid the price. I've also been the person who received grace when I didn't deserve it. I believe I can help others navigate that space between accountability and mercy." I set the application down, picked it up again. My phone rang. It was my wife. "Hey, you coming home for dinner?" "Yeah." "Listen, I need your opinion on something." "What's up?" I told her about the application. She was quiet for a moment. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know, that's why I'm asking." "Would you hire him if his name was on a different case?" "If you didn't know his history." I looked at the application again. The grades, the recommendations, the experience. "Yes, then hire him. It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because people will talk. They'll say I'm showing favoritism. That I have a soft spot for him because of what happened." "Do you?" "No, maybe, I don't know," she laughed softly. "James, you've been a judge for almost 20 years. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your hiring decisions." "I owe the court an explanation. The court needs a good clerk. If he's the best candidate, hire him." I hung up, sat there for another 10 minutes. Then I called him. "Mr. Webb, this is Judge Brennan." A pause. "Judge, hi, did you get my application?" "I did, and I'd like to interview you tomorrow at 2 if you're available." "Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is just an interview." "Right, of course." He showed up 15 minutes early. I watched him through the window in my door. He was wearing a suit, navy blue, well-fitted. He sat in the waiting area with his hands folded, not checking his phone, not fidgeting, just waiting. At 2, my clerk, the one who was leaving, showed him in. "Mr. Webb, Judge Brennan." We shook hands. His grip was firm but not aggressive. "Have a seat." He sat, looked me directly in the eye. "I'm not going to pretend this isn't unusual," I said. "You applying to work for me. I know, so let's address it. Why do you want this position?" He thought for a moment. "Because I want to be in a place where decisions are made, where I can see how the law works from the inside, and because I want to work for someone who taught me that the law isn't just about punishment. It's about people." "That's not what I taught you." "No, but it's what I learned." I leaned back. "If I hire you, people are going to question it. They're going to say I'm giving you preferential treatment because of our history." "I know, that doesn't bother you." "It bothers me. But I can't control what people think. I can only control what I do." I studied him. "What happened to the man who answered his phone in my courtroom?" "He grew up. Just like that." "No, not just like that. It took 9 days in jail, 200 hours of community service, a year of anger management, and a lot of nights lying awake wondering if I was going to lose my daughter. He paused. And it took a judge who was willing to admit he might have been wrong. I wasn't wrong about the original sentence. No, but you were willing to reconsider. That's rare. We sat in silence. If I hire you, I said, I expect perfection. No mistakes, no shortcuts, no excuses. I understand. You'll work longer hours than anyone else in this building. You'll be scrutinized more than any clerk I've ever had. And if you mess up even once, I'll fire you on the spot. Yes, sir. Why would you want that job? He smiled slightly. Because I've already hit bottom, Judge. I know what it looks like. And I'm not going back. I looked at his application one more time, then I closed the folder. You start Monday. His eyes widened. Really? Really? But Webb, yes. Don't make me regret this. He stood, extended his hand. I won't. That was 4 years ago. Marcus Webb is still my clerk. He's the best one I've ever had. He works late, arrives early, never complains. He knows the rules better than most attorneys who practice in my courtroom. And when defendants come in angry, confused, or scared, he has a way of talking to them that I've never seen in anyone else, because he's been where they are. Last month, a young kid came in for a contempt hearing. Same situation. Disrupted a proceeding, refused to apologize, showed up to court like it was a joke. I was about to impose sentence when Webb handed me a note. Give me 5 minutes with him. I recessed the hearing. Webb took the kid into the hallway. I don't know what he said, but when they came back, the kid apologized. On the record, sincerely. I gave him community service and a warning. After court, I asked Webb what he told him. I told him I used to be just like him. And I showed him a picture of my daughter. That's it. That's it. I nodded. Sometimes I think about that Wednesday morning, the phone ringing in court, the way I added 30 days, then 60, then 90. The certainty I felt that I was doing the right thing. I was doing the right thing, but so was changing it. The law isn't perfect. It's a system built by imperfect people trying to create order out of chaos. And sometimes the most important thing a judge can do isn't follow the rules. It's know when to bend them. I've been on the bench for 21 years now. I've made thousands of decisions. Most of them I don't remember. A few I regret. And one I got wrong before I got it right. But that's the job. You make the call. You live with it. And if you're lucky, you get a chance to make it better. Marcus Webb gave me that chance. And I'd like to think I gave him one too.